All right. Hi, everybody. Prep time is over. Just making sure I'm audible. Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, you're audible.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So yeah, everyone, since this round is live stream, please turn on your camera as it is required. So I'm just making sure if everyone's here. OG.
Yeah, it's here.
All right. OO. Is OO here? I believe OO is here since I see they're turning on their camera. CG, I believe is also here, and CO.
Okay.
All right, cool. So just making sure on the speaking order. OG, who will be speaking first?
First Fieri, second Justin.
Okay, what about OO?
First will be Iqbal and second will be Rahmat.
All right, what about CG? All right, I believe you are CO, but
The first speaker will be Imam.
first speaker will be Imam. All right, cool. So judges roll call, do we have Aziza? Aziza is here. And then we have Araf Zofan. Araf Zofan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just like looking at the other. Anyway, I see you're there. So I believe that Jocelyn is also here. So in that case, we can just directly begin. So welcome to round 4 of NUDC 2022. Congrats for making it this far and surviving this far. So my name is Omar. I'll be your chair for the round. And I would like to invite my panelists and also trainees to introduce themselves in the order as they appear on the tab. So starting with Aziza.
Hello everyone, my name is Aziza and I will be your panelist for this round. Good luck everyone.
So next, I believe it's Araf Zofan.
Yeah. My name is Araf Zurfan and I will be training here.
All right, thank you. So next, I believe it is Jocelina.
Hi everyone, my name is Deslina Rizky and I will be your trainee judge for today's round. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you everybody. So I think we can just directly begin. House rules, I highly encourage everyone to time themselves. I will be putting the timestamps on the chat, 167, you know what they mean. And also please indicate your preferred method of accepting POI so you're not interrupted in ways you do not want to. And I think that in that case, we can just directly proceed. I call upon Prime Minister to start the debate. Here.
Hello everyone. So if you want to POI me, you could do it through the chat box. Setting up my setting up my timer. Going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, we believe that these models is not fit for all of the corporation in the very first place, right? We think like these kind of models is only fit in the certain ways, for example, like NGO, because we think like the NGO is not looking for the profit, or maybe or there is no like specific things that you have to run in the short terms or maybe in the long terms. So that's why it is okay, right? Because like it is going to be less workloads, for example, comparatively the companies that are going to seeking for profit under their side. We think like this kind of glorification is harmful, because in the end of the day, this kind of company sees that this kind of model is very good because, let's say, you know, you have a flexible works, for example, you have a flexible type of work fields in the end of the days. So that so that's why it is going to be like used by a lot of companies that are seeking for profit and seeking for profit. So that's why this kind of thing that we are going to oppose, because it is not going to fit to all of the companies in the very first place, right? The comparative, in our words, we are not defend to like the non-existence of these models, but we are going to show to you why in the end of the days, if it is only going to for profit in the end, it's going to be bring more harmful in the end of the day, right? 3 points of harms. We are going to prove one, why the corporation is going to be way more exploitative. Second of all, I'm going to explain to you why it is going to be worsen, let's say, the idea of the individuals to get the proper job. And lastly, I would like to explain to you why this is going to be totally harmful for the government. One, before that, two kind of framing in the very first place, why this is going to be like very exploitative. One, we think like exactly because like this, the hierarchy that exists is very like flexible in the end of the days. There is no clear hierarchy, like the difference between like what the job fit, the job or the workloads that the do of certain people and the other people's in the very first place, right? This look like when you are doing a marketing, which means that you are also to manage to have to market your service, your products towards the social media, because you are seen that someone who are knows exactly how to market the product. So that's why like the companies told you to integrate the job, for example, to those kind of that, right? This that's how it's going to be look like to integrating the work field. But second of all, which means there's going to be profit, right? Which means that you are going to seek for the market. You are pursued to find as many as demand as possible, which means that the complex, which means that you are also seek for the more workloads, because like you have to receive for a lot of people in the end of the day, right? So why then the corporation is going to be more exploitative under their side? Because one, we think like the corporation itself is going to be determined by two things. One is that the market, is that the product that you sell, whether it's service, whether the items, for example, where do you make is the difference to market it towards the customer in the end of the day, right? Which means there be like the complexity of the workloads that exist, right? But second of all, exactly because like you are pursuing for profit, which means that it is incentivized for corporates to make your products as perfect as possible in terms of quality, right? So which means the workloads that exist is going to be like very complex and going to be, you are pursued to have to do a good quality in the very first place in the end of the day, right? So that's why it is very exploitative in their side, because like the people that are works in the companies are more likely to do the job that is more expected than as it is, or maybe like what the actual job desk that they are going to do in the end of the days. But before that, closing opposition.
So can you prove to us how there's not going to be any type of exploitation? Then again, there's going to be for-profit corporations on your side of the house. So they're always going to try to have.
Satu-satu ya. Okay. No. I'm not told you to speak.
Sorry. I'm pausing the timer now. Juscelina, okay, good. Please make sure that you are all unmuted at all times. So I already paused the timer. It's 3 minutes and 51 seconds. Please proceed anytime you're ready.
Okay. Continuing my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, in the end of the day, whatever the comparative, this kind of exploitative is not going to be exist under our rules. We think like when the glorification it doesn't exist, we think like in the end of the day, all of like the companies, for example, like startup or maybe companies that are only pursuing necessarily only for profit, is not using this kind of models, right? Which means that the norms under the work job or the job markets is that the job that are using the exact hierarchy or clear hierarchy in the very first place, right? So that's why it is less incentive for companies to like only a lot of job desks that are only pursued the responsibilities to only one person, for example, right? Which means that you are have to find another people's in the end of the day, right? So that's why we think like those kind of work slots that are exploitative that impose towards the workers is less likely happen under our rules, right? Because like this simply that's not normal, that's become the norm in the end of the day and so on. on and so forth, right? But second of all, why is this going to be more oppressive towards the people as individuals in the end of the day, right? We think like why, regardless the existence of like the job that are very oppressive in the end of the day or very exploitative, people will still incentivize to come in, because we are facing in the capitalistic world where the competitiveness is very like bad, right? Everybody is have the degree, for example, everybody has the skill, everybody has the networking, so that's why it's very hard for you to get the job in the end of the day, right? We think under their rules, people are going to be willing to take any job regardless the workloads or the payments, as long it is like beneficial for them, right? In the end of the day, like even that it is a lot of people right now still okay for them to work free, even that it is only like internship, for example. In the end of the day, under their words, people are going to be easier to be exploited by the companies, because one, it is up to this company to pay you, because like up to this company to pay you, because like the work loss is a lot, and then like if you don't want to this kind of job, if the company simply could fire you, for example, or just simply don't employ you in the end of the days. And second of all, which means that it's going to be worsen the competition that are going to be exist, right? Because like in the end of in the end of the day, the job field that exists exactly because the less hierarchy that exists, which means the job fields that exist to be taken by people are also getting smaller in the end of the day, right? Comparatively under ours, that when there is clear hierarchy, we think like there'll be like more job fields that are exist, right? Because like in the end of the days, that which means that it's still required by a lot of hierarchy to be fulfilled by people. Even in the trade-off that under our words, let's say maybe people are paid lesser because the workloads that are done is smaller, but at least under our words, it's more worth it in the end of the day, right? But lastly, it is going to be bad the impacts of the government, because it is completely backlash towards the interest of the government, because like the job fields is getting smaller, which means that it is going to be very hard for government to get the better job fields under the condition of current situation, like inflation to back up after the post-pandemic condition, for example. It is very hard to create jobs in the end of the day under the government, so that's why it completely backlash. We're very proud to propose.
All right, I thank the Prime Minister for that speech. I call upon leader of opposition. Here.
Am I audible? Okay. So my timer. If you want to POI, just unmute yourself. My preferred pronoun is he, him. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. I think the opening government is already missing the point, right? Like this is not only about like, the glorification of flat organization. This is not only like, yeah, you are a marketer and like you're working in a marketing division and those kind of things, right? But this is more, what do we mean by the hierarchy is less, is that, yeah, you have the marketing divisions, but under your marketing divisions, you have more workers and those kind of things, right? Within the exploitation that they are talking about is how it's likely to be happen more under their side rather than under in our side, right? Because we have more flexibility and less hierarchy, right? So then what are the things that I would like to explain in here? I would like to explain in here why then the glorification of this flat organization is going to be is going to have better time management under our side. People who work under a very complicated and people who work in a company is under a very complicated system, right? Their struggle is very hard because most of the time, people who work under authority has a bigger chance possibility to be abused and being overworked. Widened hierarchy, we think that widened hierarchy in company is actually doesn't matter. Instead of hierarchy, we think like what do you want to achieve as a for-profit corporation is to use most efficient budget management, right? With hierarchy, it creates more division that somehow doesn't necessarily need it, right? In order to get in order to get a product, in order to get certain ideas and those kind of things, it is very hardly to be achieved, right? Then why this is ineffective, right? We think that more division, meaning that you requires more workers, right? What do we mean by more workers? Like for profit companies, what you want is actually to reach a better management of money and what you want to get more profit, right? But then when you have a non-flat organization, meaning that you want to focus on hiring more workers and those kind of things, right? The moment you actually hire more workers, you actually spending more time in you actually spending more money in order to give to your employee rather than thinking about your profit for the company, right? But secondly, I think that the decision making in a corporation is going to be harder because the decision of innovation is probably coming only from your boss, right? Because like probably you have a meeting with your boss and talking about what kind of new innovation we're gonna make for our corporation. It's going to be hardly achieved for under your boss, because like people will less likely to give opinions to their boss, right? Because the chance for you to as a lower worker in a corporation is hardly achievable for you to work in this type of hierarchy, because like it's harder for you to give your opinions about something and your ideas about something, right? And also we think that needing us we think like once you have more we think that once you have more freedom, it's easier for you to reach your boss, right? We think that now that workers feel like it is easier for complaint and compromises, it is very easier for you to actually compromise your job. Then why exploitative is going to be hard is going to be exist more in their side. We think that the reason exploitative exists is because of the hierarchy itself. Within hierarchy makes you as a lower worker hardly for you to reach your boss. Let's say, yeah, you want to complain for your boss. You probably the mechanism for you to actually complain to your boss is probably say you need to say it to your supervisor as first before actually delivering it to your boss, right? And those kind of things. We think that this is hardly achievable for you as a lower worker to get complaint to your boss, whether probably you have lower wages and those kind of things. It is hardly to be achieved. But in our side, with the moment you have less hierarchy, you and your coworker probably have higher possibility for you in order to like probably in order to complain to your in order to complain to your bosses, because like now that you have more freedom and flexibility, then this is going to be way easier for you to actually achieve the complaint. Probably you have lower wages and those kind of things because the hierarchy is going to be less, and therefore for our system we proudly propose.
All right, thank you, Leader of Opposition, for that speech. I call upon Deputy Prime Minister for here.
Okay. Excuse me, am I audible? Okay, thank you. POI, please through the chat box and don't unmute yourself. Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panelists, I think we need to understand what flat organization model in the very first place, right? It already been explained in the context slide. That is to say, it will have a few regulatory structure and the hierarchy will be much less than under their side. So we think when they said that exploitation not going to be occur because that hierarchy not going to be exist, I think it's already wrong in the very first place, because regardless what kind of position that you choose, hierarchy still exists anyway in that kind of worst case scenario that you say. I think we said as the opening government is a very important thing that we say to you that this kind of narrative push this kind of corporation that seek for profit to only have this kind of system, for example, for how they can run their company, for example. We're talking about like Gojek or Grab, for example, that provide services for people that have to make their hierarchy lesser, and also how the regulation itself become more smaller for their worker or their customer. Or also we're talking about Indomie, for example, that provide goods or basic necessity for people, which is need a very crucial structure for in the very first place to make sure that the situation going to be much better. But because of the narrative, they have to make it lesser, for example, just in order to fit the trending how the corporation should work at the very first place. We think this is what the thing that we need to regret. We want the company to have the ability to choose what kind of strategy and method they want to employ, for example, for the corporation in order to be success in the very first place. There are two things in my speech. First, why then corporation is very first place going to be get much more harm, and secondly, talking about the actor itself. But before that, let's talk about opposition. They said that in our side, it's going to be much have a huge cost because there will be a lot of worker. 3 reasons. We think just because you have much worker, for example, that doesn't mean that you will have a huge loss, for example. I mean, if you have a very clear structure regarding which one get which job, for example, it's going to make your job itself become more effective and increase your profit at the end of the day. But secondly, I think your temporary reduce the cost not going to be last long, because we already said to you that this company will be unstable in the very first place and easily can get bankrupt and something like that, which are not preferable at the very first place. Second things, talking about innovation. I think both sides have that kind of innovation, right? Like we're talking about the profitable company in this case, which is seek what the market demand at the very first place. So I don't understand why the innovation is only happen in opposition. But even if innovation is really matter, I think it's going to be much better with a huge, like good hierarchy and also the regulation better. So you, for example, as a team member, can explain your innovation to your leader and your leader to your CIO and at the end to your investor, for example. I think it's way clear the process for you to explain the innovation at the very least. Now, going to my argumentation. First, talking about the company itself. I think Thierry already brought you the idea how corporations work. There are so many corporations out there that have different market and different situation at the very first place. Like you cannot generalize all the corporation and they have to use this kind of method, for example, just in order to create flexibility and to create much more freedom, for example. We think this is not preferable to begin with, because again, the characteristic itself want to create much more profit, not going to just focus about how you can like NGO, for example, or just your campus organization that have a purpose, for example, for members itself. But we're talking about company that rely for the more profit that they get, for example, for the country and for the worker itself as the job field must increase at the very least. But even at the worst case, that under our side, we trade off the flexibility and freedom, I think that's still fine. First, we at least creating a healthy corporation that have a clear standard and also clear regulation regarding how they can treat their workers or treat their customer, which is much more better compared to their side, because they will live in arbitrary situation or regulation because of this kind of freedom, which is going to lead when the problem exists, they don't know how to actually manage it because they don't have that clear hierarchy and the system itself. But secondly, even if freedom and flexibility is very important, I think once again, we're talking about professional work in this case. You being paid in the very first place in order for you to work in that certain company. So I don't understand why then if you as a worker really want that kind of freedom, then you just, for example, don't work at that company or make your own business at the very least if you want to seek freedom. And talking about flexibility, I don't think changing policy day by day or weeks by weeks going to create much more better, because we think the policy and the regulation will become the foundation for the company, and we think instability going to be occur in opposition. Before I continue, any POI closing, opening. Right. The second thing, talking about factors, there are three things that going to bring. First, talking about the company. Second, the customer. Third, about the workers. First, talking about the company. I think the company will be much better under our side because they will see the better strategy for themselves, not about the trend like a strategy that happened in the status quo right now. We think by making this kind of situation, the company will be much more evaluated regarding their market, like how they can make much more new job opportunity, for example, like the one who handle the marketing, the one who handle the social media and something like that, or the idea of they creating much more policy, for example, to make sure the new or the upcoming problem not going to be accessed at the very first place. Secondly, talking about customer, yes, this is a very important thing that maybe closing bring. We think customer are going to be much better under our side. Yes, maybe you said that because of this company become more flexible and freedom, it will make the customer itself easier to use their service, for example. But we don't think so. We're talking about like Gojek or Grab, for example, that need clear regulation how their drivers should treat their workers, for example, in order to ensure the safetyness of the customer, for example, or also to prevent the leaking of data and something like that, which is only to exist if the clear hierarchy and the regulation in the very first place is exist, right? Because in opposition, because they just take the idea of flexibility and freedom, they will focusing about how the customer itself can easily access their system or their product, but actually never going to help them at the very least. But thirdly, talking about workers, like yes, again, we think at the same time, workers itself want to get all that freedom and flexibility in their kantor, for example. But we think that kind of situation also going to exist in our side. We think just because you have a huge regulation and huge template of hierarchy, that doesn't mean you will be very limited of your action, for example. There are a lot of out there company that have a huge hierarchy, but they can still give feedback, for example, for their leader, like how in our government itself have clear differentiation from the national level to the local level itself, which is very important at the very first place. And secondly, I think as the worker itself, it's much better for you to make sure that you don't have much more job load, for example, comparing to the flexibility and the freedom that's going to be occurred. Because at the very first place, the exploitation that we brought to you is very exclusive, that's going to make this worker suffer at the end of the day. So what we show you in this debate, first, we tell you that how this kind of perpetuating narrative that push the company to have this certain system, going to let the company to choose the wrong things at the very first place. And secondly, the benefit that going to be occur, not going to be exist, like how the customer and workers not going to be treated well. Very proud to propose.
All right, thank you, DPM, for that speech. I call upon DLO. Here.
Hi, am I audible? Okay. My POI preference is POI directly because I'm not going to respond any POI chat. My gender pronouns is they, them. Let me set my timer first. By the way, please let me know if there is, like my voice is cracking up because the connection in here is not really that good. I'm going to start my speech at 3, 2, 1. First of all, rebuttals. There is false accusation coming from the government side. They trying to pictures. They're trying to characterize our structures wrongly. So there is to clarify. First of all, they had using flat structure doesn't necessarily means like there is no one single person like have the entire power over the entire company. Of course, there will be one single head of the company is still one person. The idea is like how you treat your colleagues equally within by agreeing that their opinion is much matter as yours. Second of all, what we want to try to oppose is the system of hierarchy. Is not like there is someone who is more powerful, but there is a single person that is more powerful than you. Instead, what we're trying to oppose is like there is a boss who has boss, and then this boss also have boss. Like means that you you trying to being responsible to a single person, but this also have like responsibility to another person, and that goes up and up, and it will create so many confusion. Second point of my rebuttal, they trying to say that they trying to claim that in flat structure there is no specific jobs. Not true, because like people who got accepted by the system are the people who really good at their field. That's why they have the most unique and the most like innovation that the company really needs in order to survive in this era. And it doesn't mean that they're not going like to fulfill their responsibility and their task very well, but instead, because you give them so much, you give them so much trust, they will take this as like moral responsibility to even do their tasks and finish their job even better. Moving on to my argument. My first argument is like why there is so much problematic. Why there is so much problems in the government's company, and why it's not gonna be able for it's not gonna be healthy for the survivability of the car in this era. What's government fail to identify is that in their the type of company is like authoritarian and conservative, using conservative structure, where the characteristic is one. First, there is so much power that we give to a single person, and not just a single person, but like basically your boss have so much power of you, and then this boss also have boss that is so much power over this your boss, and it's not good because they can took it for advantage, and oftenly they are the one who always get the credits for it. For example, if you have good idea and you offer this kind of idea to your boss, and this boss instead of like give credits to you, they stole the idea from you, and then he pitched to the people with higher position in order like to get promotion, to get the compliment from these people, and you at the end of the day, you're not gonna be able to have like the mechanism on how to report these kind of people, because you are too afraid to losing your job, because their power is so much that in the term like it makes you okay that they exploit it, and you think that is normal. B, I think like this system also creates toxic competition among workers, because the decision is not based on who's give the best speech, but also like which kind of like employee who is able to like satisfy his boss the most. Like are the boss is really happy with me? I'm gonna do anything to make him like me, instead of like, oh, how do I make this company even better with my idea? So you're gonna pick and this is valid, because like your boss at the end of the day we're gonna become biased, because even if you have the best idea, you still think like I don't comfortable work with this kind of person. I'm gonna just like I'm gonna just oppose like his idea anyway. Second point of my argument, like waste of time to get assessed, like waste of time, because you need to get assessed by your boss of your idea, but also after you already finish your task, you have to give accountability, like you make so many report in order like, oh, I really be responsible for my job, because in their what they don't have in their kind of company is like they don't have trust. This is not good, because exactly why there are no innovation, because you are too tired for like make my boss happy and like give accountability for my work, like, oh, I did it everything goodly, instead of like thinking about what the kind of innovation I should do in order to increase my my company quality. B, loss at the end of the day, you're gonna lose the company gonna lose its productivity, because your focus the employee focus not on how to create a great pitching, but your focus is how to to satisfy this one specific person when he is clearly subjective. Yes, please.
Order already.
Oh, sorry. Moving on to my second argument. Why then this would help the for-profit corporation itself? First, because it suits the challenge now. Understand that in the globalization era, people expect you to find always something innovation, because people are getting bored to something old and something that is something that they don't really like anymore. That's why you really need like creative idea innovation, because this kind of company appreciate it more, and you will have more innovation in our type of company. Second of all, it will create environment. Because there is a healthy competition, the connection, the healthy competition, because now you're no longer like, oh, I need to find a connection with this boss. I need to like, I need to lick him in order to like, sorry, I'm so sorry. I need to like, basically do anything for him in order to like, satisfy him. And this means the company will hire people with better qualification, instead of like hire people with better networking. Because you treat your colleague equally, this is strengthen the connection. This affect how you interact with each other. You won't take any decision that is going to harm you, harm your worker. That's all. Thank you very much. Proud to oppose this motion.
All right, thank you, Diolo, for that speech. Everyone else, please do pay attention to the POI method that was stated before the speakers delivered their speech. It is there for a reason, so please pay attention. And secondly, people, please be mindful of your time. We will no longer take notes for anything that's said after 7 minutes and 20 seconds. So that said, I call upon member of government to open the closing half of the debate. Here.
Am I audible? All right. PI preference only with text box and gender pronounce him. I'd like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The opening government brought the idea about why they regret the glorification of flat organization model in for-profit corporations, because it is how it is exploitative, and the second how people will prefer the proper jobs that could create job feel smaller in every day. And third, they also create the ideas about professionality, so on and so forth. Well, realize that the explanation that come from OG only based on the on the hierarchy that is happening of I mean the hierarchy that is maybe less under their side and maybe more under our side of the house. But we as the closing government will focus more on the words of glorification itself. We focus more what is the impact of glorification of flat organization. So we will not oppose fully about flat organization, but we instead oppose and regret the world that has the glorification of flat organization in the end of the day. Well, opening opposition brought the idea about, first, they said that it is hard for people to give ideas to the boss in the end of the day, so it will create less freedom for them, less creativity, so on and so forth. Well, we say it is okay, it's normal. It is normal because you work under a system, right? It is okay because it could create proper flow of work in the end of the day. Because when you work on a company, on a corporation, it is important for you to have the order flow. You understand where you have to talk about your ideas. You as maybe as a typographer, you will say about your ideas to the art director, not directly to the director itself. You have to know about the flow or the ranks itself, that they have their own responsibilities, they have their own capabilities that you have to understand to create better result of outcome. Because the higher rank they have means they also have more experience and knowledge about what is your corporation's goal, what is your goal, what is the goal of your company in making products or services. Well, it will be worse under your side of the house because boss will receive ideas from a lot of aspects, a lot of teams, but this boss also have a lot of urgency out there that you never know that in every day the boss will receive, will implement your ideas or not. You never know about that because there's no guarantee on that. Boss have their own urgencies, and boss also have experience where they will not just accept what is your ideas. Well, the opening opposition also said that they said that the high rank will not be equal to trade the lower ranks of the day. Well, it is okay because in a company we have to follow the person that controls the lower ranks. Well, it is different within being fair and within being equal. If you want to make if you want to trade them equal, then simply there is no role, there is no ranks, on and so forth. Well, under if you want to act fair, for example, it is simply when you trade everybody. If a person do a mistake, then simply they have also they receive the same punishment in every day. That's how to act fair, not to act equal. Also, turning into my issue about why we regret the glorification itself, because since it gives harm of if we prefer to the world that has the flat organization model in the day. Well, the first layer is about how corporations have the core value that they have to stand with. Well, understand what is the management of the corporation. Management of corporation requires system that is clear, right? Which means the role of this managing model is actually important for corporations to understand what is their line of work. Which means each roles have the capabilities, each ranks have the responsibilities to reach the goal within the core value of the corporation. What is the importance of the core values? Core values is the standing of a company, like how McD have the core value, they service fast food for people, for example. How Aqua have fresh water, for example. That is the core value that they want to stay. Well, all the workers in the company have to follow the core values, and the people who understand core values are people within the higher rank, people with more knowledge, because they have more knowledge and experience. That's why they have the higher rank that control their lower ranks in every day. So we think that it is okay. It gives the best benefit for the corporation in every day, since the core values that we are talking will be rich, will be standing on the line. People will work under our interest in every day. Well, talking about the workers, understand that the opening opposition said that it will create toxic competition in the end of the day, because they will just satisfy their boss and so forth. Well, understand it will be worse under your side of the house, because because every individual want to appear best within their environment, right? That means under your side of the house, people will just will be selfish to show what is their capabilities, so on and so forth. In the end of the day, they will maybe have bad actions toward their colleagues, for example, so on and so forth. Which means you want to show you want to appear as best in your team in the end of the day. That's why the toxic competition will happen worse under your side of the house with no supervisory that is going to see what is the action of those workers. Anyway. Yep.
Can you explain to me how under your side of the house there's actually going to be better check and balances by the company when there is always hierarchy?
I'm sorry, it was a little bit not audible, but if I listen that you talk about the check and balance, it is clear that check and balance will happen under our side of the house. Why? Because we have the control, we have the directors, we have the people that have their own job desk. That means the people that do the job will, in the end of the day, will do assistancy, for example, to the higher rank. See, is my job desk is already clear, is already done or not? Is there any revision or not? In the end of the day, so the check and balance will happen under our side of the house because they are more experienced, which it will create better outcome under our side of the house. Then the second layer about the society's opinion about startups. Realize people in the current status quo demand jobs that is giving less burden from hierarchies. That's why the status quo is very regretted. All people go to the flat organized corporation. In the end of the day, it will be bad for startup that requires hierarchies because startup still need to stand with their core values. Startup require to direct what is their goal in the first place, to maybe to gain investors in the, because investors need want to invest to the startups that have clear core values, have clear production, for example, have clear profit in the end of the day. So it could, but under our side of the house, the society's opinions about startup will be worse because they think that startups still have the hierarchies, for example. Meanwhile, if the startup force themselves to use the flat organization model type, it will be dangerous for the startup itself because they cannot stand with their core value, with the freedom type of working. By those reasons, we are very, very proud to propose. Thank you.
I thank member of government for that speech. I call upon member of opposition. Here.
Okay. You can POI by unmuting.
Ya karena ada glorification tuh kayak flat organization itu the best lah.
Mute yourself. Mute yourself. I've been saying this for multiple times.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. We think this debate should be on whether or not you want a leader. It's as simple as that. CG says that leaders or supervisor has more experience, for example. This will be my first rebuttal. We say no, because realize that experience will come from within, will come from yourself anyways. Like the moment when you work, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to learn. That is the experience that you're going to get. But say that, okay, you don't get experience under our side of the house. We say that that's still okay, because exactly, note that a corporation structure doesn't mean that you're all alone by yourself. There's still going to be the existence of peer or co-workers and etc. And hence, we're going to push for better collaboration under our side of the house. Now, few characterization. First, note that under CO, we still have competent workers, because in order for this in for-profit corporations to function, you need to they go through a very heavy selection process from the HR themselves. This is like working in Shopee, for example, where there's a high demand in the job. So the moment when you get into Shopee, you're already qualified enough to do the job that you're demanded to do. So the moment when we select individuals, they're going to fulfill their job description anyways. We think that we said when OG says that, oh no, structure means that it's less efficient because people has more work to do, they're going to be abused, like they don't know whether or not they can do their job well. We think that under our side, it's still going to function efficiently. Second, note that flat organization does not mean that everyone in office worker is going to be like working in desk jobs, because under our side we have different occupations such as the marketing team, IT team, and etc. And each one of those departments, there's also going to be the existence of peer worker. So we think that jobs will still be done because OG or CG never explained why a leader is so important to begin with. If it's only experience, we think that experience can be gained from within, or you can also collaborate and ask for other peer workers for their inputs, for example. But note that under our side of the house, we will also still have board members. We will still have the big leaders to steer the company in the right direction. Now, what is corporate structure and hierarchy for, right? OG never explained to us why structure or leadership is so important. We do agree that hierarchy is important to make sure you have a leader to do check and balance for the workers before they make a grand decision. So this is important in decision making. But we think that inside corporation, you're going to work a full time and have accountability anyways. We think that supervision is not going to be necessary, but consultation is. So we think that if you're going to ask your supervisor on whether or not you should do this, the same thing can be applied to your coworkers, right? And your coworker is also going to do the same thing to you. So then this is also going to be a symbiosis relationship where you can consult with each other regarding your job. So we think that inside the corporation, it's not going to be one job. You still can ask for that outside opinion without being scrutinized or scared of being criticized by your boss. Now, OO talks about flexibility and why communication is easier, but we're going to talk about efficiency, better protection, and decision making. First argument, why responsibility is more, but it's also better. We think that when communication is cut off, corporate workers can spend less time seeking for approval from their boss's boss. This means that you have more responsibility. And if you do mess up, there's no one going to be protecting you there. There's no supervisor to supervise you. There's no supervisor to blame. Why then responsibility is good? Because if people are scared of failure, they're going to do much better in their job. We think that responsibility is good because if you do not have any supervisor, no one is going to hold you back from your ideas. You can directly execute that plan. But that plan is not just any plan because you're going to do double checking, double research to the point where you're scared of being failed, right? You're scared of being fired. Exactly when there's more pressure and fear, yeah, sure.
I think the debate is never about whether or not you have leader, because under the working contracts that you still going to have a subordinate consensus, right? What we mean by hierarchy is that the different of work fields that exist to be integrated. How you respond to that?
No, we think that hierarchy literally means you have a supervisor, you have manager, you have director. Under our side of the house, leaders would only literally be like board member, and then you have like the marketing team. So every one of those members is going to be balanced out, right? Now, we think that I already explained to you why when there's more pressure, there's double research, double effort from the people. Why even if you fail to fulfill responsibility, it's still better under our side. Supervisor, in the end, is not going to protect you if you make a big mistake. Under government side, the supervisor has the obligation to actually fire you when you make a mistake because it is their job, right? When you talk about hierarchy, there's always a boss of a boss. So talk about the supervisor. Supervisor has the additional pressure to fire you because if they don't fire you, manager is going to see the supervisor and see that you're actually not competent as a supervisor, right? So then the supervisor will actually not see the scale of the mistake that you made, but they're going to completely deny you and fire you on the spot just so that it's much faster, it's much efficient, and they can find another worker anyways. Hence, we think that pressure coming from the board of directors or the CEO is going to be harmful because you're going to be fired. The comparative is that under our side, if you do make a mistake, there's two processes. First, you're going to be either fired also, which is symmetrical because the harm that you inflict on the corporation is too big. That's okay. Even if we're fired, we think that this is symmetrical. But note that there's also a second process. If you do make a mess, we think that you can directly answer to the director or the CEO. Because remember, you still have a superior officer under our side, but you don't have a supervisor. This is better when you give your justification on why you failed directly to your CEO. Because what you're doing is actually for the benefits. What you're doing is for the importance of the corporation in itself, right? You're not doing it. You're not failing on purpose. So we think that your CEO is also going to give you a second chance in the end. Second argument, why this provides better protection. No one talks to you about the abuse that happens in the work environment. When you're given the freedom, you are expected to also be independent because in corporate structure or in a corporate working environment, you already have a fixed job description. Now, we think that under government, exploitation happens at a daily basis. How women cannot get equal pay, how they're catcalled and etc., or being pressured by the boss to go out on dinners and etc. Government cannot provide to you this protection if there's hierarchy because people are scared to talk out, right? But comparatively under CO, we say that when hierarchy is eliminated, women can speak up. They're not afraid of being blackmailed or fired because we think that under our side, we can report the peer workers directly to the HR. But not only that, lesser bosses means that lesser amount of perpetrator under our side of the house. But let's say the perpetrator are the co-worker themselves. We think that even so, we think that it's much easier to report your co-worker to the HR instead of reporting your boss to the HR. Now, last, we also think the corporate structure is toxic, right? It's better we provide to you a form of collaboration. What we mean by collaboration is basically people consult one another. Oh, will my proposal work? Will it be successful, right? Under their side of the house, this collaboration does not exist because then you're only seeking approval from your boss. Can I do this? And the answer would either be yes or no. And your boss would most likely not care anyways and take credit for the success that you do. Thank you.
I thank the member of opposition for that speech. Again, everyone, please pay attention to the POI preference that was stated in the beginning of everyone's speeches. So in that case, I call upon Government Whip to post the case on the government bench. Here.
Am I audible? My POI preference, just unmute yourself. Thank you. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels in here, when I see what happened in this debate actually, from the very beginning, they failed to explain why profit corporation really needed the managing function itself. And I already explained well to you why the value of management function that's really important in organization in the profit corporation itself. As we say that the corporation is a goods and services that is really need the managing function about that, and profit oriented, which is they are really need about the trade, about the risky, about the profit they really need, and also they have to be acknowledged more about the investor, about the risk averse and risk taker, that they should knowledge about this. That's why and also the companies are okay to getting lost in the short time. That's why we believe that the experienced people in that field is really needed in this corporation profit panels. And also they failed to explain to us about how it will harm about the job field itself, and how it will about the standard, how it will be harming and etc. And also from the OO, they fail to explain to us how the freedom will not limit the respect toward the older staff, toward the people who are having an experience itself, and how they talking about toxic competition and waste of time. But we believe that under our side, they already explained more by my first speaker, that this will bring more competitiveness towards the work environment, whether the people will getting to acknowledge they are very good and they are going to show up about their opinion and ideas that insecure to others. That's why we think that the supervisor is really needed in here, where they are going to be filtering. We are going to be acknowledge all of the opinion, but they're going to filter, and they're going to thinking about the risky, about the threat that might be happen under that opinions. That's why we think that the collaborative is not going to be not going to be achieved under their side. And also causing opposition also bring about the collaboration. But why the collaboration will not bring the chaos, that will not bring the egoistic of giving the idea itself? That's they're not going to consider their opinion because they're less of experience. They're not going to consider it about the threat, about the risky, about the investor that will be happening to anything that might be happens in the outcome. They're not thinking about that because they are still in the staff member, or maybe because they are a trainee, but because they going to giving their opinion, there's no filter and there's no supervisor who listen to them, who giving the advice to them, who giving the direction to guidance them to how you going to having this opinion and ideas panel. So that's when we think that the management, the supervisor is really needed in under our side. So why we think the closing is much more better? The first one, we give to you how corporation work should in managing. We giving to you, we explain to you the value of managing, the value of the managing function itself. The first one is job as a burden is okay under our side, because we think that the profit corporation is thinking about companies are okay getting loose, but in the short time. That's mean that we need to work hard in our work, in our job desk, right? Where we should knowledge about the trade inside and outside the corporation itself. We have to be strict in our management. We have to take responsibility under our side, because it's not easy to having all the collaboration, to having all letter, to having all of the people to giving their opinion without any filtering, without any supervision to advise them. They have to have someone with responsibility to them, because they are still trainee, because they are still staff. So it's going to concern these people to apply for this job, because they know the risky and they know the responsibility they want to be. And that's why we think that the professionality will be happen in under our side. And also, we will create the work environment in the formal state, where everyone will not happening like the trend right now, quite quitting and etc. Whether we believe that quite quitting is not a good idea, where people think that they are still a staff maybe, but they think that my job is only from 6 a.m. until 17 p.m. and nobody will call me about job and etc. This is a bad behavior, because we think that they still need to work harder, because they are not someone who experience this field. They still need guidance, they still need experience, that they still need advice from the professional ones, from the people who really having this great position in their job. Yes, please, POI.
What happens under your side when your boss sexually abuse you?
Panels, the abusing is barely happen under our side. Why? The first reason why, because we think that the professionality is under our side, where the people are going to giving their opinions. Of course, the supervisor will having you an advice, will say to you how to concern about your opinion, about your idea, how you should you cannot just giving out your idea without filtering, right? You're just not going to be, oh, this is a good idea and push your idea, right? This is not going to be good under your side. Meanwhile, when we have the supervision, we will guide you, we will advise to you, this is not good because of this and that. But when you become the responsibility of yourself, there is no guarantee you will be good in your work, because you are still a staff, maybe you're still a trainee, you're still new in this field of job. So we think the supervision is really needed in under our side, and the professionalism we will get in under our side. And also, why we think closing much better, we explain to you the impact of the glorification in this flat organization models that create the trend of quite quitting itself, which is this is bad for startup companies or others, trainees or staff that is newbies in this field of job. And also it will create the prompt personality, which is create the back system of the management function value itself that is really needed in the operation profit, which is they are need to work hard to create a profit. So that's why the impact of glorification is really bad in our side, in our side. And also we explain to you about how important of the managing in hierarchies that are explained by my first speaker. And also the we explain to you corporation profit about the corporation profit core value. We explain more about the good and service and goals that we need the experience and the field knowledge about the threat and in and out the corporation, and explain about the toxic environment will be happen under their side, because it will create the insecurities of the newbies member and the staff member and so on. So that's why we think that we win this debate. Thank you.
I thank the government whip for that speech. To close the entire debate, I call upon the opposition whip. Here.
Right. All right. Timer. Am I audible? Am I loud enough? Hello? Atau is it still putus-putus like tadi? Let me try to change the microphone. Okay, hello. Am I audible? I think it's much better now. Okay. I'm going to start my speech. POI preference through chat. I'm going to open the chat now. Okay. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Clarifications panels. First, OG is lost if they use this cowardly characterization of hierarchy is not leadership. Hierarchy literally means your boss is in controls your whole life, your whole choices in your work life is controlled told by your boss. Secondly, OG talks about how under our side, the harm is that there's going to be less job available. This is very assumptive at best, so don't credit this argument regarding less work applications or less work job availability, right? Because they don't give you much explanation on how of the likelihood us pushing the narrative of flat organization is actually going to create less jobs. So third clarifications. OG talks about rules of conduct, right? The example is like, oh, they need to control how Gojek drivers should treat the government. No, the customers. This isn't important. This is not what we are trying to change. It will remain the same. What we are trying to change is the gap between the drivers and the leaders of Gojek. Because CEO of Gojek never is going to listen to their drivers exactly because there is this hierarchy and imbalance of powers that only exists underside government. Opening opposition talks about complaints, right? I don't think this is important, Judge, because complaint exists in both sides of the house exactly because there's HR, there is going to be much more progress in society where which your workers actually matters whatsoever. Complaint can actually be given, right? So regarding argument about complaint doesn't matter in this debate. Next, OG said that exploitation is so, there's going to be inconsistency in OG's statement, right? First of all, they said exploitation is so bad, it's so harmful. That's why they try to prove exploitation is not going to exist under their side of the house. Then they also said in the same argument, on their same speech, they talk about, oh, being exploited, it's okay as long as you're given benefits. So this is very inconsistent on why they're trying to prove that that exploitation is so bad, yet they are willing to accept exploitation. Their solution to this is, if you want freedom, you go ahead and build your own business. Are you kidding me? You think it's easy to build your own business? It is not easy. If it is easy, why are you here in university debating and not just build your own business? Last clarifications about credit, right? Credit being taken by the manager. In opposition, it was explained excellently, right? So argument about idea making under side government inherently tackled by opening opposition and also given much more examples. But where OO fails is in actually explaining likelihood of certain things happening on their side of the house and inherently making all of their benefits being doubted it actually can fly, right? Their benefits that they bring cannot actually happen because that several of those explanation only exist in my friend Dennis, and then again they rely upon Dennis's explanation. Then again, another mistake that they did is they don't link it back into vulnerable actors that exist in the current status quo. They do not see that, oh, maybe certain narrative that they're pushing is protecting women. That woman, we protecting women, only exists and brought up by Dennis also. Exactly, this is why we have able to prove to you how vulnerable actors is protected under our side. Okay, go ahead, guy.
Exploitation and harassment of workers will always exist anyway, but inherently we will have accountability to that action because there will be someone who evaluate which is the higher leader, which is not exist in your side.
All right, the higher leader is the one who does the abuse. What are you talking about? The higher leader is literally the one who's sexually abusing you. You think they're gonna check themselves on literally raping you in work? No. This is exactly why we're trying to eliminate the hierarchy leader so that people there is actually same level. Exactly because they're same level, there's going to be much more much more. What is stay away? I don't know what that is. There's going to be much more better chemistry between each workers, right? Right. Now, then again, which side? There's going to be only one clash, right? Which side can actually prove which side of the house has proven on being able to tackle exploitation on their side of the house, right? Several reasons to this. Balance of power, imbalance of power doesn't exist inside opposition, right? Exactly because company that we're trying to change is going to be filled with workers. Probably there's only one CEO. That's the structure that we're going to use, right? So exactly because the workers now is in a place where it's comfortable for them, exactly because there's no ranking or over ranking, so that it doesn't actually, they don't fight each other to compete to be better whatsoever. So inherently, there's not going to be this incentive of you literally stabbing your friends back in work so that you can get a higher ranking or a promotion. So that only exists under side government, and they have to prove how it's going to be not existent, which they cannot anymore. Right? Second, now engaging to CG argument is talking about how company value can stop so much explanation. The likelihood isn't like this, man. It isn't like this, panels. Exactly because this debate is specifically talking about for-profit companies. They don't care about values in the companies. What we care about is making profit. Exactly that our literal main source of motivation is profit. They wouldn't care about certain values that needs to be upheld in a corporation, right? Another reason about experience. We don't need much experience under startup position because you come in, we're all workers. We can literally talk to each other on how it's going to be better, right? So there's going to be much more mentoring under startup position. Experience is going to be better under our side of the house. Another one, they say that people is going to be selfish, but under our side, you cannot climb the ladder. There's no promotion. There's no incentive if you betray your friends because you need and they need you for consultation. That is you talking as your friend for input, output, or whatsoever, and your friends as being your friends, right? So there isn't going to be any sort of selfish incentive under startup position exactly because there is no rank that they can go up to, right? Lastly, they're afraid that intern is going to be treated the same like other workers. This exists in closing government, right? First of all, in status quo, interns is literally being abused, bullied in the workplace. If we are going to tackle this, meaning they're going to have the same ranking, or we're going to treat them the same, it is literally making it better exactly because we can equalize rank of intern with other workers, and it actually is going to be much more beneficial. We protect people who literally just wants to work there because they're interested or they need money, and we can actually provide more protections for intern, right? Then again, the likelihood is this, panels. If there's imbalance of power, the likelihood on their side of the house, higher up is going to oppress, and they are going to use their power much more than they should have, right? They say that people who's your boss is literally have so much experience, but no, mostly managers doesn't have experience. They just go up because exactly they do favors for your boss to actually get promotion. Hence, the motions show.
All right, thank you, opposition whip, for the debate. That is the end of the debate. I will be inviting my panelists and trainees to join a breakout room. I will be making the breakout room now. So yeah, debaters can stay here. Judges, please click breakout rooms. There should be room 1. I will be assigning you there. So yeah, please join the room. Can you see it? Wait, sorry. You should be able to see it now. I just opened it.
Yeah, wait, I'll join it.
All right, Joselina is there. Aziza and Araf, please join. All right, cool. See everybody. Give us sometime around 15.